Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to day 26 of 30 anchors in 30 days. This is the online training that gives you a platform for you to use your faith to bring transformation to the 11 most important life domains. Now, these 11 life domains are grouped into 3 relationship groups. You want to find out more about these 11 life domains? I've got you covered. Now, there's a training I've done in the past that I'm giving to you for free. You want to access it on Instagram? Click on my bio. You find 3 life relationships. Anywhere else, you find the link under this video. So click. Yes, let's get straight into today's conversation. Today, we're going into your social domain. Yes, and the foundational truth for today is this: you can have a wild gang without being a gangster. I'm going to repeat it again. You can have a wild gang without being a gangster. And our text of scripture is taken from Matthew chapter 11, verse 19. The Son of Man, on the other hand, feasts and drinks, and you say he's a glutton and a drunkard and a friend of tax collectors and other sinners. But wisdom is shown to be right by its results. Yeah, you obviously get straight from the life domain that we're entering into. This is primarily the life domain that has to talk with the people within your social circle. Now, the people within your social circle fall under multiple layers of categories. I'm not going to go too much into the descriptions of what is inside the categories, but hey, Pastor Godwin, thank you very much for joining. Now, the people, like I said, the people under this social cycle comes within different categories. You have your extended family. In addition to your extended family, you've got your extended friends. Now, even your extended friends, you have different categories. But I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to go into that. But today's focus is going to be on, look, within your social cycle, there are people who don't share your point of view, your beliefs, your faith, literally. And so the question really is this: is it possible for you to have these people even though they don't share your point of view? And that's the reason why we started with that text of scripture that we picked up on what Jesus Christ, because when Jesus Christ was alive, he had what you'd call the people on the outside. Now, those were the tax collectors. Those were in quote the people. Hey, Tony, thanks very much for joining. Those are the people who are referred to as sinners. Yes. He had all of these people within his circle. And he had a purpose for why he had all these people in his circle. But before we even go into the purpose of why he had all these people in his circle, the question for you really is this: can you have all these people in your circle? Now, before we can answer that question, you have to ask yourself, at what stage in your spiritual walk are you in? Now, if you are on the stage of a spiritual walk whereby you have established what you believe, you are completely confident, you have a measure of confidence in what you believe and what you know, it becomes a lot easier for you to actually have this social circle of people who don't believe what you believe. The reason is this: because at that stage, because of the confidence you have in your faith, it is a lot easier for you to influence them rather than them influence you. And that goes to the purpose of why you keep these relationships. The purpose of why you keep these relationships is because you want to have an opportunity to be able to influence them. And when we're talking about influence, is to be able to give them the opportunity to experience the life of Jesus Christ that you have inside of you. Now, when I first made my commitment to the Christian journey, that was in GSS 2. Almost like straight away after I made that commitment, guess what happened? I more or less, at that point in time, I was literally surrounded by non-Christians within my circle, and as it were. And I can remember almost like, I think within the same week when I made the commitment and I was ready to take it and really make it very, very serious, guess what happened? I get into different conversations with these guys who didn't believe what it is I believe, and they kept on asking me hard questions, and sadly I did not have anybody who could help me address some of those questions, and that was how I went back. Yes, it's simple parlance, I basically backslided, and I didn't come back until almost about 3 years later. I didn't make my commitment to restart my journey again until almost about 3 years later. You can imagine the impact of keeping myself within a social circle that did not believe what I believed too early in my spiritual walk. But look, I can tell you that, look, at the point in time when I had become a lot more grounded, I could be part of a social circle whereby I don't necessarily have to be, I don't have to have people who believe the same thing with me in that. I mean, for example, in my office space, there was a time in which in my office space, I was practically the only one who believed and lived according to the convictions of what I wanted. I remember there would be times in which maybe, for example, we would have company social events and everybody is ordering drinks and everything. I'm like, sorry, I'm not taking alcohol. You know, let me tell you a funny thing. I remember then when we would even go for meetings and then maybe we go for lunch and then they ask, oh, what would you like to take? I was just like, let me have a Fanta or freshly squeezed orange juice. And you know, it became somewhat like a running joke. I remember at some point in time, some of them would be like, oh, could you serve me just a glass of milk or something like that? Just making a bit of a joke out of it. But the thing here is this, at that point in time, it didn't really matter to me what everybody was saying. Well, not that it really didn't, but at that time I could hold my own. And it goes beyond just saying I'm going for company lunches, company events. I remember there was a time in which we had a company retreat, and at the end of the company retreat, the last day of the company retreat, they said all of us were all going out, and then we all went out. We ended up in the club, and you know, everybody else was hitting the dance floor. Of course, I ain't gonna hit the dance floor. But I was there. I just basically went to one corner. I was sitting down. Coincidentally, I had another guy too who had the same conviction of belief that I had. And the two of us, we just basically sat down there. We were joking, laughing, and that sort of thing. But the point I'm trying to make here is this. Just simply because you have people around you who don't believe what you believe does not automatically mean you have to be a jerk when you're around them. Because you also have to treat them with such respect that it gives them the opportunity to have conversations with them in the future. Conversations that establish a platform for you to show them the expression of the life of Christ, which is the whole idea of why we relate with them. And when we're talking about showing them the life of Christ, it doesn't necessarily mean every single time you literally have to be preachy. Sometimes it could be as simple as you show up, you find out that something is happening with them and you tell them that, oh, do you mind if I pray with you? Do you mind can I pray with you? It could be as simple as that. It doesn't necessarily mean that every single time it has to go into a gospel message that you be like, oh, guys, look, this and this and this is the gospel message. It doesn't necessarily mean that every single time. And what you have to realize is that, look, just because you have a difference of belief system does not mean every single time you have to explain why it is that you have that difference of beliefs. And so, for example, the fact that I don't take alcohol doesn't mean every single time I meet with them, I have to keep on hammering the fact that I don't. You know, let me tell you a funny thing with regards to even not. I remember sometimes when I have to visit a hospital and I meet a doctor and the doctor is trying to take my medical history. He goes into, do you drink? I'm like, no. Do you smoke? No. Then it's like, do you take coffee? I'm like, no. I'll take tea. I'm like a little regular English bloke. I like to take my tea. You put the tea bag in the cup and you let the whole tea. Anyway, put that aside. But the point I'm trying to make here is this. Even though we may not have the same convictions on things like alcohol and all those other things, I don't make it a point of every single time I show it, I have to hammer it on them. And you have to realize that's probably the only reason why Jesus Christ was able to have these tax collectors and so-called sinners around him. It obviously meant that, look, it wasn't every single time when Jesus Christ was hanging with them that he was preaching. But guess what? Jesus Christ at a point in time now told the Pharisees that, look, you guys are not entering the kingdom, but the tax collectors and the sinners are making the first beatway journey straight into the kingdom. Meaning that, look, Jesus Christ was achieving his end game of presenting the kingdom to these guys, and they were all coming into, well, not probably all of them, but a sizable number of them were coming into the kingdom to the point that Jesus Christ could reference it in telling the Pharisees that, look, you guys are saying on the outside, but the sinners and tax collectors are coming in on the inside. And excuse me, that's what you need to embrace. That, look, within your social circle, you're not going to be a jerk, but at the same time, you're not going to minimize you're not going to minimize your strength and belief in the things you believe in. And by not minimizing your strength and your convictions and belief in what you believe in, what you are doing is you are giving them the opportunity to experience the power of Jesus Christ in you. And as they experience that power of Jesus Christ in you, what you are doing is you are creating opportunities for them to be able to come closer to God. And who knows, perhaps you may be able to have that same story that Jesus Christ had regarding the sinners and the tax collector, that, hey, wait a sec, you guys, you don't know, but these same people who don't believe what I believe today, some of them are coming to believe what it is that I believe, and which is the end game of our social circle. The journey on our social circle continues, social domain continues again tomorrow. So I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Thank you very much for hanging out with me today. I pray for you as you go into today. I pray for God's protection over you. I pray that the Lord himself will be your son and your shield. He will keep you. He will watch you. He will keep your front and you'll keep your rear guard. And at the end of today, you will have experienced the touch of God in ways more than you ever knew. Thank you very much for joining me. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. It's same time, 7 a.m. West African time, 7 a.m. West European time. And I wish you guys a great day. Thank you very much.